Hello there, everybody. I'm Ginny Massie, Balanced Body Master Instructor, and today we're going to be looking at a reformer exercise called kneeling abdominals. And we're going to be looking at the flat back version of kneeling abdominals and how to make this more successful for your clients. So let me pop down and demonstrate the full exercise first, and then we're going to look at the components that might get a little bit tricky for clients and how we can help them be more successful with this exercise. So I have one spring on the carriage. So I'm going to come down, kneel on the carriage with knees directly in front of the shoulder blocks. Hands are coming out onto the frame, directly underneath the armpits. And now the full exercise in flat back kneeling abdominals looks like this. Forward with the carriage and back. We're keeping a fairly flat back throughout. And one more just for good measure to see. So some of the big keys in this exercise that you'll see clients maybe not be as successful at is they may pull with their arms rather than their legs, or they'll do some funky combination, round back, pulling with the arms. They might shrink their shoulders or let their chest fall. So let me stand up here for a moment. One of the key pieces of the flat back version of this exercise is to get really good at a hip hinge while stabilizing the upper body. And those two pieces are what make this exercise the most complicated for clients when they're not able to really understand how to do that, because there's not very many places in our everyday life where we need to hip hinge and stabilize our arms, just doing normal everyday activities. But it's a really great function to have in the body. So first of all, teaching your clients how to hinge at their hips is the first piece of gaining success in this exercise. So I like to teach a hip hinge in standing first, so clients understand this movement in an upright position, because this is where their brain lives most of the time of their day. Their brain lives on top of their body. So anytime you can teach something in standing, it's going to sink in just that much deeper and that with that much more understanding for your clients. So take your clients in standing. Take your hands into flat pancake hands. Take the outside pinky finger edge of your hands. Find your hip crease. So I'll stand to the side and then turn your hands so that way you are kind of creating this letter V right along your hip crease. So it should be your pelvis and then your leg bones right where they meet. Now, go ahead and bend the knees and feel how the pinky fingers kind of sink right into that hip crease, right here at the crease, and then come to stand. Let's do that again. Bend at the knees, but mostly bend at the hips. It almost feels as if your sitting bones are widening as you're sinking down, and then come to stand. Doing that 2 more times. Find the hip hinge, widen your sitting bones. Come to stand. 1 more time, hip hinge. Feel your fingers sink into the depths of your hip crease, and then come to stand. Now, let's do that single leg standing version of the same exercise we just did on the mat. So have your clients hold onto a wall, hold onto a ballet bar, or maybe onto their foot bar if the height is right, or balance challenge. You're going to do single leg. So take one hand into the hip crease, the other hand where you choose. I'm going to take my hand on my hip today. And then you'll ask them to now hip crease by bending the knee and lifting the leg. And then bring it back down. I'll stand to the side. Here we go. Bend the knee, lift the leg, widen the sitting bones, and feel the hip increase in its crease. So we're not looking to round the back to lift the leg, but as you're lifting the leg, you're really looking for the leg to pull into the pelvis widening the sitting bones, and that's what creates that hip crease. Do that a couple of times on each leg in standing, and now bring your clients back down to the reformer. Just with that one piece, see if that makes a difference. So you'll come back down, knees onto the carriage in front of the shoulder blocks, hands out in line with the armpits, just as before. Now, before you even cue them to move the carriage, ask them to widen their sitting bones and feel as if their leg bone is pulling up into their pelvis. Now, pulling together, contracting the core, lengthening the spine. Don't even talk about the shoulders yet, because they might not need to know anything about that. Let's see if this fixes it. Then ask them to pull their knees towards their shoulders by hinging the hips and widening the sitting bones. And then by doing that, if the shoulders are now fixed and they're doing the exercise properly, the way that you would like to have them work it, then you don't even need to talk about the shoulders. However, if they're still pulling with their arms and they're doing a combination of a hip hinge shoulder pull, that might not be the end of the world, but if they're not looking like they're working the shoulders the proper way, then what you can do is look at different ways of getting them to stabilize their arms over their hands, if that makes sense, their shoulders over their hands. So coming back here to the start position, without moving the carriage, ask them to keep the carriage steady, shift their weight forward and shift their weight back. Maybe start with their knees a few inches behind the shoulder block so they have room. Shift forward, shift back. Give them a sense of where they are in space. Have them shift as far forward as they can, and then come back just an inch or two. Stay there. Now, don't shift your weight forward as you pull the carriage in and out, taking that hip hinge, knees pull to the hands, and then return. So I hope this has been helpful for you to see a few different ways to break down kneeling abdominals, flat back, breaking out some of the pieces and components to get just that much more successful in cueing and teaching your clients, getting them to understand the pieces of the movement so then they can put it all together as a whole. So then your clients can feel that much more empowered and successful in this movement as well.
If you enjoyed this sequence, be sure and hit that like and subscribe button. Then check out my on-demand library of Pilates classes linked below. See you next time.